Thanks, Drew. Thanks. So good morning, welcome. Got a quick session today, a lot of information to go through. First of all, big hand for Seattle weather. Thank you, Seattle summer. How many Seattle people do we have in the audience? So you guys know, being here, when that's out there, I appreciate it. Want to talk through some new announcements, but first we're going to talk through, what is the Kindle Fire? Then we'll discuss some new platforms and some new capabilities that we have introduced in the last couple of weeks, and then get into just a few tips and tricks as a teaser of things you can do in your games to optimize for the Kindle Fire platform. How many current Kindle Fire app developers do we have in the room? A couple? So, what is a Kindle Fire? How many Kindle Fire owners do we have in the room? So, most people think of Kindle Fire as a tablet. We refer to it as Kindle for reading, movies, music, apps, games, and more. It's a media and content consumption device. But there's a lot behind it. There's the platform behind it. I actually wanted to put the backside of the Kindle on this slide, but they didn't want me to do that. It gave the wrong message. But think about what's behind the Kindle. Think about what's behind the device. It's a platform of capabilities. Some of them are listed on the screen. It's a platform of capabilities that allow you as an application developer to reach the audience. Parental controls, something we introduced recently, brand new capability in the platform. There's Silk, our accelerated browser you can take advantage of. There's obviously the Amazon store. One of the key features of the Kindle Fire is it comes pre-configured to the user. It's an extension of the user's Amazon account. So it makes it very easy to do things like one-click ordering. You as an application developer can take advantage of that platform capability. We're going to talk about a couple of new services that really reach into the game space, particularly in-app purchasing and game services, also known as Game Circle. And then you can also think of the Kindle Fire as an extension of the Amazon Prime infrastructure, which is integrated with the device. So as I said, in the last couple of weeks, we have made a couple of announcements and some extensions to our mobile application distribution portal. How many people in the room have a distribution portal account at this point? A couple? So I want to introduce you to the distribution portal and the SDKs and resource kits that we introduced in the last couple of weeks. So we know that the Kindle Fire is an Android device, and you can create applications for Kindle Fire in the normal Android SDKs. Well, there are these special platform tools that I mentioned, but how do you get access to them? How do you learn how to take advantage of what's special about the Kindle Fire? We've created a resource kit with documentation and information specifically geared toward the Kindle Fire developer. Inside this resource kit, there's access to an emulator, there's documentation on specifics of the UX. So one of the things that makes us a different experience than other Android tablets is we have our own Kindle Fire skin. We put the Kindle Fire skin on the device to make it very customer-centric and very easy for the customer to gain access to this media-centric experience. To extend that and make it easy to program to, we've created this resource kit so you can gain access to the actual user experience guidelines, how to customize your app for the Kindle Fire. All that documentation and information exists in our new portal. There's one thing that I want to pay particular attention to on this page is the second little box down there, and you might be not be able to see it. It's the pre-submission guidelines. So one of the things we also did, we heard from a lot of our developers who said, when we submit our app to your portal, it kind of goes into the black hole, and we get back some information about pass or fail, but we need more information about how do we make a successful app? What do we need to do to successfully submit our app? So we created a set of pre-submission guidelines in our resource kit to allow you to understand what we're looking for. What do we need to see in your app so that it can be successfully through our process and be published on our website? Another announcement that we made in the last couple of weeks, and I'll spend a lot of time on this topic, is Amazon Game Services. Amazon Game Services are the other two major bullets on our portal page. This is where we've heard a lot about the last speaker from GREE. He talked about user engagement yesterday. If you were in Aaron Rubinson's session, he talked to you about the why of creating applications for Kindle Fire, engagement, monetization. This is how you do this. These are the tools of the platform that allow you to really create engagement and grow your business with a Kindle Fire-centric game. So first off is in-app purchasing. In-app purchasing is a relatively simple concept. I want to be inside my game and extend it in some way. I want to add to that game experience, and I want to monetize that addition. Or I want to go from a free version of the game to a paid version of the game. The tool set here allows you to do that. Basically what we have, different than some platforms, what we have is an application that sits on the device that is backed up by our platform and the Amazon infrastructure. That makes it easy for you to implement and configure your application because you worry about your application. So in your application, you create your user experience, you create your buttons, and we have the services that capture that action, manage the whole purchase flow, because again, if you think about it, the Kindle Fire is connected to my user account, my Amazon account, my credentials. They're all stored on the device. So I can very easily create in an application a mechanism to activate that platform. Comes over to us, we process the purchase, we handle secure communication, we use the stored credentials and the stored account to debit the credit card, and then we respond back and say success. And all you have to do then is handle the events rather than worry about this end-to-end experience. So if you think about it, here's two different games. In each of these games, they've created a button to buy an upgrade. Buy the full version from a free version. Upgrade with some feature set. This is up to the developer. All they do is create their user experience however they want, but on that action, we capture that and we create a standardized set of platform responses. We capture that and go to the back end. We confirm the purchase. We confirm that the credit card went through. And we send back to the app a success message. But the user experience at that point is handled by us and represented on the device in a very consistent way. So you can always know that you're going to have a very consistent user experience from inside your game. Go back a second and talk about. I do want to touch on different types of purchases because it's important to understand the flexibility here. A lot of games do in-app purchasing for either consumables. I want to buy points. I want to buy stars. I want to buy some in-game currency. I want to buy an upgrade for a character. We allow you to do those consumables. A lot of games also do entitlements, free to paid, different level, 50 more levels available. One thing that we're seeing is more subscriptions. Subscriptions are also supported. Subscription is, I have a game that maybe I have a monthly access to, and continued access to a part of that game or part of that experience, or every month there's some console games that do this. So I have the core game, and I get a car a month to extend the game with. And I, as a user, subscribe and pay a fee, and as long as that subscription is up to date, I get a new car or a new character every month. The other big piece of game services that we have introduced is what we call Game Circle. Game Circle is a set of extensions that, again, if you think of this as a platform accessible from inside your game, it's a set of services that allow for leaderboards and achievements and sync. So if we go back and we think, what's behind the Kindle Fire? If you think of it from the reader perspective, so if you're familiar with how Kindle works, think of it from the reader perspective. On my iPhone, I have my Kindle app. I have Kindle Fire, I have an e-ink Kindle, I have a computer, and I'm reading a book, and I read to a certain place in that book, and then I pick up a different device. The sync capability that we offer says, CJ, you were at page 48 on the last time you read on another device. Do you want to sync to that location? Absolutely. So I sync to that location. This is the same sync technology that allows you to do the same capability in a game. So if we think about this again from this platform perspective, and much like with in-app purchasing, you create the experience. So here again, we have two games. On the left, we have an awards button. On the right, we have a little magic cup that represents my stats. I create that in my game, but then it's back-ended with our services. When you implement Game Circle inside your game, there's actually an APK, there's a binary that is placed on the device that creates the user experience that you activate from your code. So as I push an awards button, it opens up another experience you can see in the back, shows my awards. I can click into detail on those awards, and it pops up a consistent user interface that our APK actually provides. Each of these is actionable. I can get more information about it. I can see where I place against other people. If you look on the right, the achievements on the right are represented in a way that is from the application. So you provide the graphics and say, I want this to look like a coin, I want this to look like a car. But again, we're pulling that together and representing it in a consistent user interface. So when we think about sync, there's three basic capabilities that we provide with sync. One thing that we've noticed with Kindle Fire users is they move around a lot, and they uninstall and reinstall. With Game Sync, you can uninstall and reinstall a game, and the sync keeps the game state. We allow you up to 5 game state saves. So you can save up to 5 games on the device, and you can sync across multiple Kindle Fire devices. So if I have a Kindle Fire at home and I have a different Kindle Fire device, or a friend of mine has one and I log into his, I get all of my game saves pulled back from the platform. Because it's a connected device, it's connected to Amazon and the Amazon cloud, all this is pulled back through the platform. So the last few minutes I'm going to talk very briefly on some specifics of optimization. One of the things that we've noticed in games is either a game is being ported from another platform, or it's a console game or it's a PC game, and the graphics don't look quite as good on the tablet as we'd like them to. And the most likely thing that the developer thinks is the best idea is to take a big graphic and scale it down to a small graphic. So take a really big picture, pull it onto the Kindle Fire device, and then scale it down to the resolution of the device. It's a very logical idea, but our GPU actually makes it a better idea to scale up. What we've seen is on the Kindle Fire, our GPU can take images as small as 64 by 64 and scale them up to the size of the screen with full clarity. The beauty of that is it saves space in your game, and it's much, much faster to process. So as we think about optimizing for the Kindle Fire, just keep in mind that the way you naturally think of things might be backwards, and the resource kit and the information that we have available will really, really help you to optimize. When we get Kindle Fire games submitted for us, a lot of times what happens is they will be phone titles that are being ported over to the Kindle Fire. And if you look at our resource kit and our pre-submission guidelines, one of the first things that you'll see in there is a recommendation to change your interface to support the tablet. This is a very important one from a user experience perspective. The users like to have a very interactive, tablet-centric interface, and we just urge our developers to always keep in mind that, take advantage of the screen real estate, take advantage of what you have on the device, and scale it up to fit onto the tablet. And the last one I'm going to talk about today, and again, this is very much a teaser for a whole breadth of information that's available on our portal, is on-screen controls. And this happens when a larger scale tablet application is actually scaled down for the Kindle Fire. We see a lot of on-screen controls actually get compacted or overlay each other. We've seen a couple of games in testing where you move and fire at the same time. So you're moving, and because the movement button and the fire button are now overlapping each other, you end up shooting your partner in the head because you've been moving around and shot him in the back of the head. So, as I said, all of this information is now available, represents all of our platform. We have an extensive amount of information. My partners and I and the Kindle Fire team have written the documentation available on the portal to give you the best practices, the user experience information. If you are not on the developer portal at this point, please sign up. I'm running out of time. And engage with the portal. Submit your apps, let us assess them, let us get them onto the Kindle Fire, and give you the opportunity to grow your business through enhanced engagement with these platform services. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, sorry if you're going to have to repeat because I missed a little bit of the beginning if you already mentioned it. I was just curious, from your perspective, what are some of the biggest reoccurring failures or issues you see when people attempt to port their game over from, say, iOS to the Android platform on the Kindle Fire?
We see a lot of games ported over from iOS, and the three that I brought up really end up being kind of the top, where they try to take significantly larger graphics and scale them down to the device, and that really taxes the GPU, and also the app just ends up being much larger than it needs to be in binary size. The control compaction is a typical one where the controls for an iPad particularly end up being compacted down and don't fit on the screen very well on the Kindle Fire.
We've talked a lot about the profile where you have a Kindle in the front seat and you pass it back to your kid in the back seat.
Yep.
So when I think about pairing that with Amazon's one-click purchase, that gets dangerous. So,
Yep.
you know, what about multi-profile support on the Kindle?
So that is part of parental controls that we introduced. You can actually, through our parental controls, put password locking on the one-click purchase. So if you hand your child Kindle Fire that is registered to you and you don't want them to one-click purchase, you can set purchase limits and a purchase password.
But are there multiple profiles on the Kindle or just one profile?
There's one profile on the Kindle, but we allow you to lock things down with parental controls, so you can, that's for content, it's for purchasing as well.
Any other questions?
So stop by the booth. We've got a booth out front. Stop by the booth if you have any other questions, and I appreciate your time. Thanks very much.